Welcome. She's the youngest Bangladeshi to have reached the top of Everest, and she's on a quest to climb the highest mountains in each of the 7 continents. 31-year-old Wasfia Nazreen has set herself the challenge to celebrate 4 decades of women's progress in Bangladesh, but she says there's still much more work to be done. She wants to empower adolescent girls in South Asia to get involved in outdoor sports. Well, it's quite a feat. We'll be speaking to Wasfia in a few minutes' time. Let's just first take a look at what she has set out to do for the Bangladesh on 7 Summits campaign. The first summit Wasfia reached was Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. She climbed to the top of that in October 2011. That same year, she summited Aconcagua in the Andes and then went on to climb Everest in May 2012. Well, last year, Wasfia reached the top of Vinson Massif in Antarctica and Mount Elbrus in Russia's Caucasus Mountains. And now she's aiming for the final 2, Denali in North America and Carsten's Pyramid in Indonesia. I'm feeling exhausted just reading that list out, Wasfia. Wasfia Nazreen, we are honoured to have you here.
Thank you so much.
All I can say is that is extraordinary, and everybody will be wondering, why have you set yourself such an amazing challenge?
Well, first of all, I think, just being a Bangladeshi who works and within the country, and for my generation, it's really frustrating when the international media just portrays us for all the negative things, Bangladesh is known for. And it came out, the campaign birthed from that frustration that, hello, is it like, hold on. Yes, all those things do exist, the politics and corruption, but don't we have anything to celebrate? I mean, is it fair to portray a nation of almost 156 million people, not for the day-to-day resiliency they show at the face of such Godzilla power? And how fair is it to, and I personally, coming from my own background of the work that I do, I think where we women in the country, given that it's a predominantly Muslim and patriarchal society, we have achieved a lot in the last 4 decades, and that needs to be highlighted. So
you think women are doing pretty well considering?
Yes, I mean, there's always more work to do, and there's much more work to do, but it's, given our background, we have come a long way, and that needs to be highlighted and celebrated,
I'm very interested in your whole attitude to climbing mountains. I'm trying to avoid the word conquering, actually, because you don't like to use that in regards to what you do. Just tell us why.
Yes, because, I mean, I don't think you can conquer anything in nature, first of all. And if we had really conquered any mountain, then we would be setting up a house on top of, or, but the first approach when you go on the top is to get down. Oh, my God, we need to get down safely. And so that's not really, I don't think that's a proper word to, summiting is a proper word, but that's just, and that's a very, I think, male-dominating, masochistic, like,
to conquer something as if you're at war with it.
Yeah. And that's not, I mean, it's more like a surrender. We've surrendered to the nature, and that's, I mean, if anything, nature allows, the mountain allows us to reach the summit. If you know what I mean.
So you count yourself very lucky to do this every time you do reach a summit.
Of course, yes.
I watched a talk you gave about your experience on Everest. It was incredible, and you actually chose the Nepal side to go up, which is the more difficult side.
Yes, and it's the original British, where it's also called the British route, because the original success, when Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reached, that's the original route. So.
Is that the one everybody asks you about, the Everest one?
Yes.
Because it's the one everybody thinks. Is it harder than
Of course, it's harder. It's the hardest within the 7 summits, just for the sheer fact that, it's so long. And for me personally, it was very long. It was a single woman team.
We're looking at pictures now. I don't know if you can give some context to what we're seeing while you talk.
So that's a hula hoop that is spinning 4 flags on top of... So
that's you under all that gear?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just to make sure.
Yes, that is me. And I've tried my level best to have it as independently, have these expeditions as independently run, because my whole point is to show to the world that what an individual from Bangladesh is able to achieve given the opportunity, and especially a woman.
And that is you at the very summit of Everest.
Yes, and that's our campaign logo.
That's your campaign logo, and I suppose it looks, it doesn't show the absolute arduous nature. I mean, it's something like 2 months, is it, to climb Everest?
Well, I started on 26 March to mark Bangladesh's 40th Independence Day, and then I reached exactly on 26 May. Wow. 2012, and so it is 2 months up, but I came down in 2 days, and then but from Dhaka to Dhaka it was a 3-month-long journey, and for me that was the toughest, to just survive on my own mentally without much team members, and so next time when I go I'm probably gonna take a whole team.
Right, so every climb you have different people with you.
Yes,
it's not, you're not one climbing team. You basically have to get to know everybody else and the ways that they operate in very, very challenging conditions.
Yes, and especially if you don't get along with someone in plain lands, then the chances are you won't get along with them in high altitude, I
was just fascinated also by what the effects are of the high altitude on your body. When we've seen you smiling in those pictures, but actually your body is basically at war with itself.
Of course, yeah. And we were talking about this earlier. I got frostbitten in the last mountain, Denali. I would have had 6 done by now, but unfortunately on my last expedition, which is the highest mountain of North America, we were stuck in a storm for a long time, and then the expedition was called a shutdown because the national park, they told us that we need to come down because the weather was getting worse. So on our way down, I got frostbitten and pretty much had 3 surgeries so far to save the finger, and then I still don't have sensation in it.
So you've saved your finger. We can actually, there it is. That's what it looked like initially. Apologies if anyone finds this a little bit gruesome, but this is the effect of frostbite on your finger, your ring finger actually. And it's now okay, but you just can't feel anything through it.
I mean, it's there, but it's very hypersensitive. So when it goes too cold, I mean, not even just in the cold in London, for example, which is not really cold in my eyes, it hurts over here in my mind, and all of a sudden I just feel the pain here, and then I look at and that part becomes black, and then I put it in front of a stove, for example, and then it gets red. So I can't actually tell when it's going through all this tantrums.
That was Alaska. That's what Alaska did to you.
That's what Alaska does to many people, and I know people who's been on that mountain for the 5th or 7th time, and they still haven't gotten good weather, and so that's my next challenge.
And you are completely at the mercy. I mean, you can plan as much as you like. You can plan for doing it in good weather in a summer period, for example, and then it can go wrong at the drop of a hat.
Yes, and I mean, I have had 5 of those, successful expeditions, but I also run 3 other expeditions that were not successful, not because of my physical abilities, but because the weather wasn't right,
That must be extremely frustrating to go
Yes,
through
and just
that.
Financially speaking, because it's a lot of fundraising that I need to do to go to each mountain, logistically speaking, and also just energy-wise, and it's pretty draining, but I've sort of accepted it that it's part of the process, and unless you fail in your life, I mean, I don't see it as a failure, it adds up, but that teaches you what the summit actually, the value of the summit,
And mentally, it's not, obviously you've just talked about the mental challenge, the loneliness.
Yeah.
Now, the smallest thing I've ever done, the greatest height I've ever scaled is Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia, which you walk up, but that's 2 days, and 2 days seem like an eternity. I went through mental anguish doing that. How on earth you sustain, for 2 months?
I think
and in
it's
the
all
conditions.
in the mind. I mean, you need to have a really strong mind, because I've seen on Everest people totally physically doing perfect, but they just couldn't handle it,
But you actually saw several dead bodies around you on your ascent.
7 dead bodies on the
and you took photos, and people, because you can't be brought down.
Yes, and actually when I went, I left a will saying that if something happens in dead zone or whatever in Everest, just don't bother bringing that body, because it's also putting the Sherpas' lives at risk, because your bodies, you need at least, say, 8 to 12 Sherpas to go up there, get your frozen body, which is a lot heavier, and then it's not fair to pay. I mean, what's the point, we're already close to heaven.
So you're coming face to face with your own mortality, even if you survive the expedition.
Yes, and it's a nice reminder what impermanence is,
One question, what's the reaction when you come back to Bangladesh? What do people make of your expeditions?
I think it's been very positive, and I'm really grateful, and to be very frank, if it wasn't for the people of Bangladesh, I would have given up a long time ago, because whenever I hit a wall and feeling very low, I remind that if I fail, I fail my people at home, and so they've been rallying behind me, and it's a love that I haven't been able to match anywhere else.
Wasfia Nazreen, we appreciate you coming in, and we wish you all the very best on the final 2.
Thank you so much for having me.